Over the past few weeks, DC fans have probably gone through a range of emotions, from hopeful to speculative to sad to indifferent, and maybe for some people even downright furious with what's going on, as it's clear that James Gunn is pushing DC in a completely new direction. After weeks of reports and rumors and speculation, finally we did get some confirmation. Not only is Wonder Woman 3 dead in the water, it's not happening with Patty Jenkins, but Henry Cavill will no longer be Superman. And that was the thing that united so many people in anger, because despite what people may think of Man of Steel or BVS or whatever version of Justice League that they remember Henry Cavill from, even if they didn't like those things, they still love Henry Cavill and they wanted to see him in a Superman movie. James Gunn said that's not happening, and unhappy DC fans did unite and reject the studio plan, got Fire James Gunn trending. Well, James Gunn is now responding to that. James Gunn calls out negative fan reactions to new DC movie plans. And when you make decisions like this, you have to know that there are going to be some things you do that are just very unpopular. And not bringing Henry Cavill back is an extremely unpopular move. The one thing you probably shouldn't do is try to pass it off as blaming toxic fans and make yourself into a victim. However, that's exactly what James Gunn has decided to do. James Gunn confronts uproarious DC backlash. Disrespectful outcry will never affect our actions. And I have been the first to say that I think James Gunn is in a tough position, and I even understand what he's doing to make the move away from Henry Cavill, to want a full reboot, to want a clean slate, to want to do this the easiest way that he thinks is possible for the next 10 years of DC. I might disagree with it, but I completely do understand where he's coming from and where everybody at Warner Brothers would be coming from with a move like this. But you also have to expect that people will be mad about this, and to just brush it off as, oh, it's just a minority of fans that are mad about it, and you can call us all the names you want, we're never going to change. I think that's a little bit of a mistake, but that's exactly what James Gunn has decided to do. Just a few days after James Gunn announced Henry Cavill will not return as Superman in his plan for the DC Universe future, he has addressed the uproarious and unkind backlash to the recasting, and we can go to his Twitter thread right here. One of the things Peter and I were aware of when we took the job as heads of DC Studios was a certain minority of people online that could be, well, uproarious and unkind, to say the least. Our choices for the DCU are based upon what we believe is best for the story and best for the DC characters who have been around for nearly 85 years. Perhaps these choices are great, perhaps not, but they're made with sincere hearts and integrity and always with the story in mind. Now, that tweet right there, there's a lot of good in that tweet. You're sitting there and saying, hey, listen, we're going to make some choices. We know that maybe not everybody will be happy, but we might not always make the best decision, but it's always with the right intentions. It's always with the intentions to give you guys something that you're absolutely going to love, that we think respects these characters. That's a perfect thing to say. You can put that out. There's not going to be very much backlash at all to that. It's all these other different things that are in here that are making people roll their eyes a little bit. No one loves to be harassed or called names, but to be frank, we've been through significantly worse. Disrespectful outcry will never, ever affect our actions. What's disrespectful? Is it disrespectful to say this is a big mistake, James Gunn? Is it disrespectful for people to say fire James Gunn? Is it disrespectful to simply disagree with you on your future moving forward? Like, what do you think is disrespectful? Because to be quite frank, I've seen some people pulling up, the James Gunn old tweets that are out there that he got fired from Disney once before. I've seen some people bringing those up and trying to roll those out as an excuse, right? But the vast majority of people that have a problem with this aren't sitting there calling James Gunn and Peter Safran names. They're not out there doing things like that. They're simply saying, I think this is a big fucking mistake. Henry Cavill, you're moving away from Henry Cavill. Why in the world would you possibly think that that is a good idea? That's the vast majority of shit that's out there. Passionate DC fans. To pass it off as you're calling us names and disrespectful is kind of cringe. We were aware there'd be a period of turbulence when we took this gig, and we knew we would sometimes have to make difficult and not so obvious choices, especially in the wake of the fractious nature of what came before us. But this means little to us in comparison to our jobs as artists and custodians in helping create a wide and wonderful future for DC. Again, half of this stuff that he put out there is perfectly fine and reasonable and acceptable, but the parts where he's shitting on fans for being upset about something, that isn't going over well with a lot of different people. There's been a history of DC fans being labeled as a toxic fandom, but maybe the best person to address that would be the very person that James Gunn fired in Henry Cavill. I think he had some thoughts about toxic fandom.
I'm curious if that's comparable to this sort of world, this culture of toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Now, he certainly wasn't referring to studio heads or things like that. He was talking about specifically how people react to individual characters, but the principle remains the same. The reason that this backlash is out there, the reason that people are talking about this stuff is because they're passionate, because they love these characters, because they want to see the right thing happen for DC. And with some of these moves, people feel like it's not the right direction, specifically surrounding the Henry Cavill decision. Now, he did go on to answer a couple more things. He denies claims that he booted Gal Gadot from Wonder Woman. That's also not saying that she's coming back. He's not confirming that she is still going to be there or that she's not going to be there. Simply says, I didn't boot her from the role. He also later addressed some allegations that are out there that he's essentially going to reboot everything except the characters that he's dealt with for the Suicide Squad. Who knows if it's true, but recasting all the main DCEU but keeping some will be interesting how Peacemaker and Suicide Squad actors live on but others don't, particularly when they have all interacted together. James Gunn replies, I keep seeing posts like this with an untrue theory. We're not recasting everyone except the Suicide Squad. Again, not confirming anyone who's actually being recast, simply saying we're not recasting everyone but the Suicide Squad. So what does that mean? I guess we'll know in a couple weeks. Either way, I think James Gunn, that by deciding to, put out this little tweet saying we're not going to bow to this negative fan outlash for this toxic fans out there, this uproarious negative fandom, I don't think that's a good look. Because if that's the way you're going to handle everything, it's going to be a long 10 years with you as the head of DC Films. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for watching, everyone. And a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.